Welcome back. As Nigeria commemorates its 63rd Independence Day, it's time to take stock of industries that have proven resilient. One is Nigeria's entertainment industry. From our music to movies, comedy, celebrities in the entertainment industry have voiced their optimism for a brighter future, even in the face of the country's current economic challenges and other persistent issues. To help us discuss this, we have my very good friend, Godwin Tom, Managing Director, Sony Music Publishing Nigeria, joining me right here in the studio. Great to have you, Godwin.
Thanks for having me, man.
So, quite an incredible time. You know, we're 63. We've been through a lot, you know, as a country. We know the problems right now. Inflation at an all-time high. We have our currency all-time low. So the problems are many. But I want you to, you know, paint a picture of some of the gains, something we can celebrate about Nigeria.
Well, we're definitely in a better place. We have, the other day I was speaking to a gospel artist who has made over $40,000 in the last year online, right, from music being streamed. So there are opportunities. But to put it in perspective, if you look at the revenue being generated in Africa from streaming, the African music industry is the highest, has grown the highest, over 30%. Nigeria contributes to a chunk of that. So there's good reason to be optimistic because artists are seeing money. What we need to do is to ensure that it's spreading, not just the artists making money, but the industry making money.
What's the value chain like?
So for now, that's where the problem is. So you see, as the diaspora grows, what happens is that there's an increase in revenue for African artists. So the money goes directly to them, but first it has to go through the distro companies, which are mostly foreign. So they get what's paid, what's left, and it's paid directly to the artist. The challenge with that is there aren't many businesses, there aren't many artists treating their craft as a business. So it goes to personal accounts as opposed to going to companies and businesses that employ people and hire more people.
Right.
So that's where there's a challenge, really.
So that means right now the value chain is not so big, but monies are going into different accounts. And you did mention some of these companies abroad, you know, that are also getting a chunk of this.
Yeah.
How many do we have here in Nigeria that are also, you know, getting a good share, you know, of that market?
Well, I represent Sony Music Publishing, right, for Nigeria, West Africa and East Africa. And one of the things that I've seen or that we've tried to do is introduce opportunities for local writers, local composers. The bigger problem is most of these funds generated abroad are cross-border. So the music industry is divided into about 5 or 6 different industries. So you have the publishing industry, which is where I work. You have the recording industry, which is where labels are formed. You have the live music industry, which is where you perform the music that's created. And then you have the interactive, which is where technology meets. Then you have support services like managers, accountants, lawyers. This chain is the industry, right? What people see is the tip of the iceberg. You see an artist. But for every artist that is mildly successful, they create 3 to 10 jobs for the economy. What needs to happen to fix this problem is more people need to get educated so that they can set up businesses that cater to the needs of the artist. We don't have that many. We have maybe Mavens, we have Chocolate City, we have YBNO, which is signed to Empire. Then it begins to dwindle from there. You start to struggle to see any form of structure around any other business.
All right, talk to me about record labels now and most of these talents. There seems to be some kind of discontent, you know, either from the label or the artist. And it seems it's about money, you know, most of the time. What do you think is causing this, and how is it impacting the music industry?
Well, first of all, it's a global issue. It's not a Nigerian problem. So what happens is most of the artists who are creative come from environments that, you know, education isn't the focus, for lack of a better description. And so they go into these deals hungry. They sign horrible deals. Some of them refuse. I know artists who lawyers have actually sat and said, here is how, don't sign this contract. And they're like, they're about to give me X amount of money. Why wouldn't I sign it? And they get stuck in problems. What happens is as the artist becomes more popular, hangs around more artists, has access to more lawyers, they begin to realize the situation they've put themselves in, and then they start causing trouble, most of the time with court of public opinion. But that's a general issue with people not reading their contracts, not hiring the right lawyers, not doing what they need to do before getting into the agreements. So empathy is what they hope for.
Right, and just take for instance, I'm hungry talent right now. I see a big deal, you know, in the offing, and I don't want to lose the deal.
Yeah.
What do I do?
What do you do? Well, you build your own value. So what technology has given us now is direct access to the consumer. So we have our industry built around, you know, initially you needed to be signed to a label who would invest money. Now you can create music from your bedroom. You can put it on a music platform by yourself. You know, you can generate the income and put your accounts and get the money paid to you. Like the gospel artist I spoke about, it's an online platform. He put his music. One of the songs did well, and that's generating a chunk of money for him. He didn't need to talk to any label. In fact, he's not even signed, right? So you look at it from that perspective. Artists aren't willing to wait, and that's where the team and the business and the education comes in, to build an audience that will generate income for them. I'll put it in perspective. If an artist who has 1 million followers on social media can find 2,000 people who will give him 30,000 naira a year, that's 90 million.
That's good money.
That's good money, right? So it's taking the time to understand the process, building a value chain for yourself, and identifying those areas where you can generate money.
How expensive is it building a value chain for yourself?
As I said, all the tools are available. To learn production, you can do that in your house. There are platforms where you can learn. To talk to the audience, you have social media, which you can direct them to your own platforms. To sell, you have platforms you can put the music on for free. So the chain is easy to develop. What happens as you grow as an artist and you begin to find ways to protect yourself, because you can now afford them, you can get better lawyers, you can get a PR person, you can get more people to protect your interest. But to start, you don't need much.
And let's take the conversation further now. Definitely, the Naira is under a lot of pressure, you know, right now. And, you know, looking at the music industry, you get a song, but the materials, what you use to produce, you know, that music, I believe most of those items are imported and definitely sends out a lot of dollars that we need out of the country. Are there any conversations about, you know, producing most of these items right here in Nigeria?
I don't think the issue is where they're produced. I think the issue is how they're used. Nigeria is predominantly a production market. We need to become a production and revenue market. So there's too much, we're creating a lot, right? We need to protect that IP so that we can generate revenue and that money comes back to the economy. That's what needs to happen. So it's not about, I mean, some cars are made in Japan, some cars are made in Germany.
Right.
The issue isn't where they're made. The issue is where they function and how they're used. And I think regardless of where they, I mean, we should have people who can develop and create those, but until we get there, how do we ensure that these materials that are available can generate income that comes back into the economy, that services the economy and creates jobs? I think that should be the focus.
Right. So at this point, definitely music has grown, definitely in Nigeria. What are you seeing, you know, for the next, say, 10, 20 years? We've come a long way, definitely. What are you seeing, you know, going forward, and how much, you know, revenue we can make, and what the government should be doing right now to position, you know, that industry to gain even more?
In the next 10 to 20 years, Africa is going to literally control the youth market. We would be the youngest, we're already the youngest, but if we continue at the birth rate that we have right now, we're going to be a large chunk of the world's youth. Creative endeavor comes from youth, right? And so what will happen is we will be generating more money. We will be in a position to negotiate better. But if we're not educated, if we don't have enough people filling seats and positions, of influence within the industry, we will lose all that money. So what I think the government needs to do is start looking at a framework around how to protect our intellectual property. Because many people think it's just music that goes out. It's not just music, it's our culture, it's who we are, it's our language. So there are a lot of things that go with the music as it penetrates and permeates other economies and other countries. And I think what we can do is figure out how to protect that intellectual property, regardless of where it goes, so that it remains ours. Right now, a chunk of our biggest artists are signed to global labels, and so therefore the revenue being generated is kept in those markets. If we're able to find local superstars developed by local businesses that are generating international and foreign currency and bringing it back into the business and funding activities locally, we're going to have an amazing opportunity. Live events will thrive, streaming will thrive, and the last thing I would say is the government would need to be helpful. They've been helpful in ensuring high local content on TV. That was a game changer. What needs to happen now is we need to protect the IP that is being played and ensure that it generates revenue.
Protect the IP to ensure revenue generation. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
my very good friend, Godwin Tom, Managing Director, Sony Music Publishing, Nigeria. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. All right, so we'll take a quick break. Where we come back, commodities market update is next. Do stay with us.